You can't defeat a dragon, but the fish can. Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm happy to present you with another brilliant attacking game featuring Stockfish and Dragon. The game was fascinating and I hope that you can all learn something. The game began with e4 and c5, the Sicilian Defense, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and a6, the Nidorf variation. I go over these opening moves relatively quickly as it is theory. The Sicilian is a very popular opening that has been covered in some games on the channel. Let me know in the comments if you would like a video on the Sicilian Defense and some of its variations. The game proceeded with bishop e3, e6, and g4. This is a very aggressive way to play against this variation of the Sicilian. h6, preventing g5, and then queen f3, developing the queen and preparing long castles. Dragon now played queen c7 and Stockfish started an aggressive kingside attack with h4. h5 from Dragon, trying to close down the kingside and block up the position. g5 kicking away the knight and the knight g4. The black knight sits strongly in white's position, so Stockfish plays bishop h3 immediately trying to get rid of the knight. Dragon responds with knight d7, which tactically defends the knight. If Stockfish were to now take the knight, Black would play knight e5 with a fork and would recapture on g5, replacing the lost knight. This is why the fish long castled and Dragon, now that Stockfish has moved his king to the queenside, launches a queenside attack. b5 and then a3 from Stockfish, preventing b4. Dragon plays knight e5, centralizing the knight and creating a strong bind between the knights. Queen g3 from Stockfish, preparing the moves f4 to disconnect the knights and kick the knight out of the center. g6 from Dragon, locking down the king side and creating a potential home for the bishop on g7. f4 and knight c4. This is the other idea of b5 in the Sicilians. It always gives black a support point for the knight on c4. Bishop takes g4. Stockfish finally gets rid of the knight. Dragon recaptures, and white cannot take on g4 as the queen is defending the bishop. Stockfish comes up with the idea of f5. The black king is stuck in the center, so it makes sense to rip open the center of the board, making way for the white pieces to attack the black king. Dragon now plays queen b7 supporting b4. The fish plays king b1. A useful move is Sicilians, and then we get b4. A takes b4 and queen takes b4, threatening a checkmate on b2. Stockfish plays knight b3, blocking the checkmate, and Dragon responds with a5, trying to attack the knight. The knight is pinned, as if it moves then there will be checkmate on b2. So Dragon is threatening a4, which would win a knight as the knight cannot move. The fish plays bishop d4, indirectly defending the b2 pawn and attacking the h8 rook. Rook h7, and now Stockfish played a brilliant move. But first, don't make a blunder by not subscribing to the channel. Instead, click the like and subscribe because Stockfish says it's the best move. Now pause the video to find the brilliant move that Stockfish played in this position. In this position, Stockfish played the brilliant bishop c5, attacking the queen and hanging the bishop. Dragon cannot take the bishop as white will then play queen c7 threatening mate, and if you then block the mate, queen c6 check will fork the king and the rook. This is why Dragon retreated the queen to b7. And do you think Stockfish moved the hanging bishop? Of course not. Queen d3 attacking the knight and pressuring the d6 pawn. Dragon can still not take the bishop due to queen d8 mate. Queen a6 defending the knight and overprotecting the d6 pawn. Bishop d4 and a4. Dragon defended the first wave of Stockfish's attack and now continues with its own attack. Knight d2 and knight e5, offering a queen trade and centralizing the knight. Stockfish plays queen g3, pressuring the knight, and Dragon continues the attack with a3. b3 from Stockfish. Taking on a3 and opening up your king is lethal. The a3 pawn will be used as an umbrella pawn as it will actually shield the white king from the black army. Queen a5 and queen e3. Bishop a6 developing the bishop and bishop b6 attacking the queen. Queen b4 and knight a2. Stockfish does a wonderful job of keeping the queenside compact and making sure that black cannot infiltrate. Queen b5, and just when Stockfish's king looks its safest, the fish decides it's time for a counterattack. c4, pushing the pawns in front of its king to attack the queen. This position is very dangerous for both sides, and it's one of those positions that is extremely difficult for a human to handle. It's a good thing these players are machines. Queen c6 and king a1. Rook h8, desperately trying to get the rook into the game, and Stockfish then plays f6, restricting the bishop as it now cannot move. And if the bishop cannot go anywhere, then the king is stuck in the middle, and the rook is trapped in the corner. One pawn is nullifying 8 points of material. Rook b8. Black focuses on the queen side. Bishop d4 and queen c7. Queen g3, knight c6, attacking the bishop, and bishop c3. Knight e5 and rook c1. It's instructive how engines continually make small improvements to their positions. This is something grandmasters also do a lot. Instead of rushing or trading, they simply make small improvements to their pieces. Queen a7, knight b4. Dragon doesn't really have any good moves, or moves that do a lot. This is why Stockfish has the time to make these small improving moves. King a2, rook d8, rook hd1, knight d7, knight d3, knight c5 and knight takes c5. Trading pieces doesn't seem too bad for Stockfish in this position, as it is essentially like the fish is playing up a rook and bishop due to the trapped black kingside pieces. Queen takes c5, rook e1, bishop c8 and queen takes g4. Stockfish on move 44 finally wins some material in the form of a pawn. Queen f2, queen f3. Stockfish is now more than happy to trade off the queens. Queen a7, rook h1, rook h5 and queen d3. Queen b6, bishop d4, queen b8 and knight f3 improving the knight. Rook d7 and bishop f2. You can see how Stockfish improves the position and puts its pieces where they are attacking but also defending. Look how well placed the bishop and knight are. They are ready to attack at any moment, but are also defending the weak h4 pawn. Queen c7. Dragon is just shuffling pieces around at this point. Knight d4, bishop b7, rook d1, queen c8 and rook c2, further improving the pieces and controlling the important second rank. Queen a8 and rook e2, king d8 and queen e3, queen a5 and knight b5 making progress into the black position. Bishop c6, bishop e1, queen a6 and rook d2. Stockfish reveals its target. All its forces are pointing at the weak d6 pawn. This is just an attempt to make the game go on longer. Dragon sees that this will lead to the longest win. Stockfish takes the bishop and Dragon plays e5. Bishop f2 and queen b7, rook c2, rook h8, rook c1, rook c7 giving up the rook, knight takes c7 and bishop e7 giving up the bishop as well. c5. Stockfish doesn't even take the bishop as c5 leads to the fastest checkmate. Rook e8, c takes d6, bishop takes d6, knight takes e8, queen d5, rook c8 check, king d7, queen a7, queen b7, queen takes, bishop c7, rook d1 check, king e6 and a lovely knight mate with knight g7 checkmate. I hope you enjoyed this game, and please comment down below if you like this content or if you want to see different content. Remember to make your own brilliant moves by liking and subscribing, and then go promote some pawns.